it's been a while since I've live streamed, that's for sure. But I am actually doing it. Right, let's see where everybody's at. Wait for some chats to pop in, some notifications to pop up. Some people to go, whoa, haven't heard from that guy in a while. Morgan, good morning. Another beautiful day in New Zealand, springtime. We've had a big dump of snow. We've got an Arctic blast coming straight up from the Antarctic, which is sweeping heaps of weather over us. We had thunderstorms last night. Cat was not happy. But I'm back and I'm streaming, and I'm here to talk about massive progress on Superatomic RPG. Hey, Moondog. Hey, Jesse. And yeah, general news on just the channel and stuff. Green Slime Zombie. Yeah, the Green Slime video is doing very well. It's currently trending 22% higher than my usual content. I think that's just because it's classic D&D content. I'm very happy to take some advice from some of my viewers in the comments, some constructive criticism that said nobody's really interested in Aussie. Well, people are interested, but the mainstream of my audience was not that interested in Aussie. I didn't see a lot of numbers there. And yeah, it was fun to make the content, but a lot of people have never, in 5th edition, have never heard of Aussie. The mysterious continent that's far to the east of Faerun across the sea. But basically it's the equivalent of Dungeons and Dragons Australia. So that's what I was basing it on. And since I live in Australasia, you know, across the sea, the Tasman Sea from Australia, it was easier for me to research, you know, Aboriginal culture. And it was really interesting. I always thought that the Aboriginals had a like a more cohesive sort of culture. I should have known different, because I know that they had distinct different nations and trade routes and currencies and cultures and stuff. And of course, their mythologies were all different as well. There was a lot of similarities and crossing of, you know, there was a lot of shared ground, but each individual people of Australia had their own mythologies and traditions, which developed over 80,000 years. And it's really interesting the way that they view the dream time and animal spirits and protectors of the land and that sort of stuff. So it really it made it easy to write, but also it encouraged me to be vague about the mythology and exactly what the dream time was. And I was hinting that it's both the weave, it's also the astral plane, the ethereal plane, the realm of dreams, and the Feywild. It's all of those things. And we've got precedent for that, because in Faerun, we have the Faerunian pantheon, but in Karatur, which is attached to the same chunk of land, when you think about it, it's just separated by mountains and plains, or the steppes of the Horse Lords. The pantheons are totally different. The mythology of Karatur is totally different. It uses the more Asian celestial court sort of thing. So dragons are more nature spirits and protectors of the land and servants of the celestial court. And the celestial court is afterlife bureaucracy, essentially. That, yeah, it's easy enough to just research Chinese, Japanese, all that sort of those sort of cultures and stuff, and just insert them where needed. And of course, parts of Karatur are like Japan and, you know, Vietnam and the Philippines and Malaysia and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of resources that you can draw on, be culturally respectful, change them up, you know, and present them as interesting and unique cultures. It's a good way of exploring different cultures and stuff like that in your Dungeons and Dragons game. You can travel the world from the armchair of your gaming table. I think that's perfectly appropriate. Everybody's always done that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And if you go and ask anybody from any other country, they don't find it cringy at all. I'm never bothered when somebody's mentioning, you know, New Zealand and stuff like that, even if it's a caricature and things, and they don't really pay a lot of respect to the nuances of Maori culture and things. But the general idea is like, there's not that many Maori people in the world. Their culture is not that well known, and it needs to get out there, you know, and and people being curious and emulating your culture is not an insult. It's a compliment. So yeah, and generally speaking, most people that I speak to from both the cultures in New Zealand, they don't really mind. It's only when things are done very disrespectfully or like in a commercial sort of way that like Maori culture is exploited or ripped off, like the facial tattooing and things like that has cultural significance to them, so that I don't like it when people like paint fake moko on like, Russian girls in movie videos emulating Maori culture and stuff, doing war dances and things, because they don't understand it and what they're doing is offensive. It's mocking. But yeah, if it's done, respectfully, or if you even like make an attempt, that's fine. So if you may or may not have noticed, I have new teeth now. Over the last month or so, I've had to adjust to learning how to talk again. And during that month, actually longer than a month, I've been using an AI emulator to emulate my voice. A lot of people have noticed that. A lot of people hadn't, which was great. In case you're curious, I use a website called 11 Labs to do that. And it was only thanks to the fact that I have thousands of hours of my own voice recorded through the video script, all my video recordings and things, which I keep on file, that I was able to feed that in there and program it so that it sounds exactly like my voice. And I'd previously tried that out with the Alien videos, but you see the progress that's been made in AI voice emulation since between then, when I put out those videos, and the last few months where I've been using the AI. The last couple of videos with Green Slime and the one before that has been my natural voice, and it will continue. But occasionally you might hear my AI voice if I'm doing something like reading out a really long, like a Dungeons and Dragons story from Dragon Magazine. New spell, Slime Rain. Hello, Orion. Hello, Damien. Too bad on the Aussie. Yeah, I think the Aussie had a pretty good run, and I think the response to it was really good, considering I was just sort of dropping it on everybody from the blue. And I appreciate that everybody gives me the leeway to do that, But I've really got to get back to like what I'm known for, the bread and butter. I'm known for my monster ecologies, my well-researched videos that cover all the editions of Dungeons & Dragons. I'm not really a 5th edition channel. I'm a Dungeons & Dragons channel in general. And that includes all of the derivatives of Dungeons & Dragons as well. So if I wanted to talk about Dungeon World or Dungeon Crawl Classics or anything really, Tunnels and Trolls, it's all part of the Dungeons and Dragons franchise of hobby. Everything was inspired by it. So yeah, role-playing games in general, but classic Dungeons and Dragons, knowing what I know about the old games, the research that I've done, all of the monster lore and things like that, the monster compendiums, the Kobold Press books and things like that. One of the interesting things about doing Kobold Press books is because I do visual montages of images. It leaves me with a bit of conundrum, because there's only one image of that monster in the Kobold Press book, unless online there's some like conceptual art or something like that, or somebody's done some fan art of it. But then what am I doing? I'm scraping the internet for other people's images to use without their permission in my videos, which makes me exactly what they accuse an AI of doing. So what do? Do I do every video I have one image, which is their image, and then I do my interpretation by drawing a pencil and line art sketch of it every single video for 10 minutes or so? That could sort of, that's quite different from my usual content, and doing that sort of drawing stuff would burn me out pretty quick. Or do I rely on AI art and learn how to use that and provide people through my videos copyright-free images and additional images of those creatures, or as best as I can get to the artwork that's in the Kobold Press books, so that they have more images to use themselves, and other YouTubers even have other images of that creature to use, because where else are they going to come from, And of course, how much content I put out, and I can't afford to pay $600 and leave an artist for 6 months planning ahead for a video that may be irrelevant by the time I get there. So the practicality is I got to use AI art generation to use for those particular sort of videos mainly. But in the Green Slime video, it was a mix of classic images and also some AI images. And I dare anybody to spot the difference between one and two. In a couple of cases, you wouldn't know. AI art's getting better and better every day. And also, the argument for AI and stuff is largely just done and dusted, and it's been reduced to people screaming from both extremes of the border. Like you could say that I'm an extreme advocate of AI, and I understand where, for example, Chris Cox is coming from. That his shareholders are basically saying, "Look, the shareholders of Hasbro are saying to Wizards of the Coast that you must go where the money is. We need the maximum return on our share investment." And we see the numbers being the video game industry. The video game industry makes so much more money than the book publishing industry that there's only one logical choice for the company to go, which is like, if you don't pursue online tools and AI and stuff like that, and keep up with the audience and do the VTT thing and follow the trending, the trend of people are streaming their games now and they're using AI and they're using the tools and things. Like even dice rollers are an AI when you think about it. Like it's using an electronic tool to do a physical job, or something that you would do yourself. Like it's a tool. It's an automated tool. AIs are just algorithms. They're not people. They're just automated tools. And one thing that like AIs can do, large language models can do, is they can churn out very accurate stat blocks for any sort of creature that you type in a description of. So if you're a DM and you want to, like, if you programmed or given the AI access to all the monster manuals and things, you never have to flip through those pages and reference them again. You can just go, give me the stat block on a kobold warrior. Give me a stat block on a hobgoblin sorcerer. Can you make up a random slavering horror, something that's crawled out of a crypt? It will in seconds. Like, it's just, faster than you can reference it. It's faster than you can do it yourself. And when you're at the gaming table and time is at a premium and your attention is drawn by 5 different people's interactions, that really helps. And Chris Cox is being honest and saying, look, all of the 40 people that I play with all use some form of AI to assist them in their gaming. They're not saying that they've let AI take over the DMing. That's not what he's saying at all. And I see a lot of people like going to that extreme and painting his words as something that they're not. But what he is he's backed into a corner. As a CEO, he has no choice in the matter. He has to go the directions of shareholders are making him to go. And you could point the finger and say that the shareholders are actually the ones to blame for AI and stuff in the industry, because he has to do that too. But, and the sad fact is that the shareholders are willing to abandon the entire, or turn off the entire existing player base or the entire existing fan base of Dungeons and Dragons, because the profits that they are chasing are worth more than all of the existing fan bases, output of income. They just are. They're just chasing the 9-year-olds. They're chasing the kids who will play AI, VTT, Dungeons and Dragons without batting an eyelid, because they've never known any different. And there's going to be more and more 9-year-olds, and that's what Hasbro has always banked on. They sell toys to kids, and they are turning Dungeons and Dragons into a toy that they can market to children. So they get rid of problematic stuff. Yeah. They make it simplistic. Yep. They make it very vanilla. Yep. They make it kind of very, very player ego focused. Yeah. But yeah, they're giving tools to dungeon masters at the moment that we can use. And really, as a dungeon master, use whatever you want. And how you play your game, as always, is your business, So am I anti-AI? No. Am I realistic about it? Yeah. Do I go into it using a lot of caution? Absolutely. Hey, Comic Nut, thank you very much. Hey, Bency. Hey, Raoul, it's cool. People who just have bad taste, yeah. Hey, Fred at How to RPG. I like your Aussie monster videos and your homebrew creatures. They have a future in the publishing of book. Yeah, that's more likely. That's a better place for my homebrew, I think. Dang it. I can't hang to watch the stream at the moment, but enjoy the cash. I'm actually planning my Halloween campaign. Excellent. Yeah, I should be planning a Halloween video. What are you drinking? I'm drinking a cup of tea this morning. The reason why I'm drinking tea and not coffee, even though caffeine is in tea, is because I'm on a iron supplement day, and iron supplements are best when you're not drinking coffee. So I have to not drink coffee and have a couple of iron supplements to keep my energy level up. I've run out of 5e monsters anyway. Not even close, Fred. Do you know how many Kobold Press monster manuals I've got to get through? There are literally thousands of monsters for me to do. Mazes and Minotaurs. The ecological difference between D&D kobolds and Pathfinder kobolds. Although that would be interesting enough for aficionados who play both, I'm not a Pathfinder guy. I don't even like Pathfinder, really. I prefer to play 3.5 edition as it is, with Savage Species and all those other expansions and things. I think it was a perfect system. Well, not perfect, but Savage Species was great. I think them sort of they really should have cleaved to the idea of, for instance, if I was designing 6th edition Dungeons and Dragons, I would get rid of species entirely as a category that you choose, like a character class, and I would just say, okay, you pick your at first level you get 2 feats, like the human variant gets 2 feats, right, and that stays the same. But if you want to choose another species, a demi-human or whatever, as we used to call them, an elf or a hobbit or an orc or whatever, that's a racial feat. So you take a package, the feat, because the feats are really more like packages now. You say, okay, because this is basically how we handled it in Savage Species. When you go up a level, you choose to progress by taking racial feats or your class feats. So you can just handle that at level 1. At level 1, I choose the package of half-elf feat or hobbit feat or, yeah, whatever. I was just getting the pun in. But still, I think that would work perfectly fine. Yeah, Aussie is largely me rolling up characters from Mutants Down Under, which is Palladium, and calling it a whole species. Totally legit. Yeah, where would we be like with the proprietary dice systems, like the Star Wars system that the recently brought out with all those custom dice, like using the actual physical dice and like working out the which ones take away from other ones slows the game down. So you really need to have a dice roller for that. It's crazy. It does free us from the copyrighted versions of the game, that's true. In Aussie, you can write whatever law you want. And I think it's good, kind of like the Lady of Pain and Queen of Chaos and Pale Knight and, the nature of Sigil and those sort of mysteries in Dungeons & Dragons. Some things are left up to your own imagination, and Aussie is one of those things. You can put whatever you want there. If you want to make it, like Asgard or something like that, fine. Just going back to AD&D, yeah. I find, like, I've done a lot of BECME. I've played so many other games. It's been a while since I played any 5th edition games. Played so many other games this last year. And we went back and we played BECME and we played a lot of classic games. And I found the restrictions of old D&D just stifling, level caps and all that sort of stuff, and initiative having to be rolled every round and all that sort of stuff. Little things that you forgot about old, your rosy glasses forgot about, like you're looking back through rosy glasses at through the lens of history, about your own experiences with these old games, and you don't realize that, oh yeah, they really were difficult. They really were unnecessary restrictions and things like that. And that brings us to the topic of Superatomic. So Superatomic has had a lot of progress. I've now got Fred there from How to RPG, Wally from Wally DM and his Dungeon Puzzles and Traps channel. He's involved. And we're going to hopefully be having a live chat after the stream about it. And I've made a lot of progress. We've play tested it. It's worked out well. I've dropped certain things and adopted others. I dropped the idea of gear points, for instance. So for those of you who don't know, Superatomic is a very simple game designed for streaming and to be completely free access. and so that anybody with any level of interest or skill in role-playing can join up a game immediately, and there's only like 3 pages of guidance for how to run the game, but essentially you don't even need to know anything how to play. You don't have to have played previous role-playing games or read any rules or anything like that. Essentially, you just sit down and the host of the stream says, here's a set of tables on a spreadsheet or a PDF that is the Superatomic system. You roll up your character through random dice rolls. You assemble the results, copy paste onto a word pad or a document, or you print it out, or you write it on a piece of scratch pad, or make your own character sheet. I'll probably make some character sheets as well. And the host of the game can also roll on a bunch of tables for a random adventure, basically assembled from a bunch of D100 or D1000 tables. The tables are huge, extensive, and very complex, but they have these weird synergies where characters that you roll up completely randomly just happen to make perfect sense. It happens spookily often. Ask anybody who's played the game and they'll attest. And it's the dice system, the rule system is essentially this right here. And thank you, Wally DM, for redesigning the page. So as you can see, all of the polyhedral dice are represented. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 results, and all the way up to the D20 here. And also the D100 is represented by these different categories if you just split it into 20 categories. And they range from a critical fail to, an optimum success. And the thing is with Superatomic, there are no modifiers, there's no hit points, there's no armor class, there's none of that sort of thing. There's just basically a description, a role-playing oriented description of what your character is and what they can do. It's vague on purpose. The host of the game is in control of everything. And basically everything is resolved by just a straight dice roll. So if you want to do something, the DM or the host of the game decides which dice you roll, and the dice roll of a D8, for instance, is a bit more extreme than a D20, and a D4 is really extreme because it's got that extreme of like you're either going to pass really well or fail really badly, sort of thing. So if it's an extreme situation where really matters, D4s. But if it's just sort of middle of the road stuff, D20. Or if it's if you're more comfortable using a D100, you can resolve things that way. Super simple. You don't need to learn anything. It's right on the page there for you. And when the DM rolls the dice, everybody knows exactly what's going on. The only modifier that I came up with for that is if you fail your dice roll, you get 1 point, which is essentially a luck point or a try again point, a point that you can add to a future roll, because nobody should fail all the time, and I like the idea of you fail, and then you can sort of come back and hit them back with use those points of failure to muster yourself or assist somebody else directly and share your points with their result, if it makes sense. So that's Superatomic in a nutshell. The big progress that I've made is I've done the first expansion for the game, which takes us from a sort of modern era, which the core rules are sort of, or the core tables are assembled for, and I've expanded it for a golden age. So the golden age of comics, sort of between World War I and just after World War II, is the golden age of comics. And so I've made specific tables for character generation where the background is for that era of time, and their skill base is based on that era of time. And the adventure tables can be adjusted to fit that. But what I've done is I've provided also some resource sheets that give you a list of all the historic events that have happened over those years. So you can say, okay, when was this type of military technology invented? And you can run a game where the player characters stop the invention of the first V2 rocket, or they go and kill Hitler, or those sort of classic cliche tropes of stuff that you want to do. If you go back in time to those particular time periods, what would you want to do? And cliches exist for a reason. They work. They're fun. And they are understandable. It's easy to sell something to somebody if they already understand the concept. So the rule is 70% familiar, 30% new is the sweet. That's an acceptable innovation. That seems to be a universal sort of thing for product design and story and stuff like that. People like to be introduced to new stuff from a position where they're a little bit comfortable with it, Hey, HB Hugger. What's my favorite Iray? Petrification, I would say, but disintegration really can't be beat. There's nothing quite like it's gone. Homebrew Halloween Bone Centipede Nothic Art. Yikes. Hey, Sinsu. Hey, Raphael. Mr. Huber. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the TMNT character creation system, because I could almost feel Eric Wujik over my shoulder as I was coming up with these tables, and he was going, yes, yes, because as you know, if you played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and other Strangeness RPG, the point buy system and random roll tables on that were fantastic, and the Heroes Unlimited random roll tables, like you can roll everything randomly in Heroes Unlimited, and so it just makes the system so much more replayable. And the amount of character options that you have from combining D1000 tables and D100 tables and multiple of them. Like, for instance, I just finished up the alien backgrounds and aliens and extra-dimensional beings species trait table. And that's a D100 table. And each of those D100 results has got a D10 that you roll for 10 possible traits that are specific to that species, because I decided that if you had let's say you rolled on the first table and you were a being from an ice planet, and then you rolled on a specific traits table, but it wasn't specific to an ice planet, you could end up with an ice planet, but your character is a raging inferno or a photonic node, or, has something that doesn't make sense, that clashed too much. And so to avoid that, I was a bit more specific and targeted with the rolling. But still, with 100 plus 10 other options, you end up with 1,000 possible alien species that you can roll. Just like that. So that's Superatomic for you. It's just, it just gives you a very, very character. Yes, I'm talking a lot, Spooky. I'm not paying attention to you. Are you going to go and tear something to pieces? Would you like to say hello to everybody? Would you? Yeah. The internet loves cats. Say hello to the internet, Spooky. Hello, internet. Okay, happy? I'm not eating anything. Go away. It's raining outside. He's got cabin fever. Hey, Damien. Thank you. Shoot, I have to head off to work. I'll have to watch the rest afterwards. Have a good day, AJ and everyone. Thanks, Damien. Hey, welcome back to Bronze Dragon, Mike. Hey, Kakastuk. Cat. Tell that to the water temple. I look bulkier. Yeah, I have lost. I'm currently at my goal weight, which is around 100 kgs. So I've lost about 30 kg since I started streaming, I guess. But that's good. I feel great. And my health is, medicated. My blood pressure is under control. I've upped my iron count artificially. I've discovered that I couldn't absorb ferrous iron, and I wasn't absorbing iron through anything other than red meat. And at the moment, because my teeth have been replaced, I can't chew red meat, so I have to take supplements and stuff. And also, I couldn't eat anything for a while. So it's, and I can only, and when eating, I have to eat really slowly and carefully. And there's only so many things I can eat, like macaroni, cheese, and things. And yeah, but I'm working on it. I'm making really good progress. Speaking freedom units. Yeah, eliminate classes, but break all class features into feats you can buy with level restrictions for certain abilities. Absolutely. The Pokédex of D&D, the OG Monster Manual, AJ Pickett, back at it again. Love your vids, man, especially the Chimera one you did. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really enjoy classic monster ecology. I really enjoy bringing together all of the old edition lore, and with Green Dragon so the Green Slime video, I gave a shout out to Mr. X because there was a bit of like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that a green slime gave off a toxic smelling cloud when it dissolved stuff. Of course it does. It dissolves it with acid. Of course it's going to make a cloud of gas. But I never thought that, it smells like eels or stagnant water. Huh, interesting. But that's some interesting little tidbit where the guide that is guiding you through the sewer goes, do you smell that? And, that's green slime. And you'd be like, what? That eel smell? We're in a sewer. It's like, oh no, once you smell it, you don't forget it. And he holds up the stump of one hand. Yeah. In fact, I think in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, there's a character that's lost a hand from green slime. Not much, Matthew. Just talking about the thing. The other thing, which I didn't really announce to anybody, obviously, was that I lost my dad last month. And that, of course, impacted me greatly, as you would imagine. And that was one of the reasons why I was struggling to get videos out and things. And AI helped me there too. I was really struggling, and I had to get the videos out to get food on the table, pay the bills. But when you're really when you're grieving and stuff, it's difficult to be interested in anything that you do. But I managed. It was okay. And also, it was a long time coming in, and it was the hospital handled it well. The family was all prepared. We were all there. It was still a shock, but it was the end of the road, and we were all waiting. And yeah, it was. I can't say it's good, but yeah, suffering ended. Family game came together. We mourned and stuff, and we move on. My mum then went on a trip over to Canada, and to the wedding of my cousin, and visited friends and family and stuff, and came back. Brought me an excellent tub of Folgers coffee from Canada. She also visited Australia, but while she was away, I was also stressed out, and also making sure the house didn't burn down and things like that. So yeah, but she's back now, and that's good. Yeah, thanks everybody. What are some good adventures to run with a good menagerie to throw at players? I was thinking Tomb of Horrors and the Apocalypse Stone. Things like White Plume Mountain and sort of classic adventures like that, where there's classic sort of dungeon crawls and things with Caves of Chaos. I think 4th edition had a really good Chaos Scar adventure where a far realmy meteorite struck the side of a mountain and caused mutations of creatures all around the area, and you have to basically track it to its source, so it just gets worse and worse and worse until you find the source of corruption and have to deal with it. That's a really good adventure. Human-made lore is the best kind. Yeah. Sometimes AI really surprises me, sometimes it doesn't. I've come to the conclusion that ChatGPT is now broken. I know it's a bit of an accusation, but I think they're starting to cause ChatGPT to cause deliberate repeated errors so that they minimize processing time because it's costing them money. I think the company's actually yeah. I don't know how. I don't really trust the morals of the people who made ChatGPT. However, there are alternatives, and I'm using one called Lambda, which is an unrestricted AI that I'm responsible enough to use correctly, and it's much better than ChatGPT for helping me with creating. It talks to me like. Well, I had a conversation with it last night about how my cognitive function is different because I'm a visual thinker. I don't have an internal monologue, for instance. I don't hear internal voice. I don't have negative voice thingies telling me bad things. I always thought in movies, like in Dune and stuff, like the original David Lynch one, where the characters aren't talking, but there's a voice narrating. I thought that was just a movie gimmick, like to represent the thoughts of somebody. I didn't actually realize that people talked in their head. That never occurred to me because me and my dad, we shared that trait. My brother is a verbal person, and he has negative, verbal thoughts that criticize them and stuff like that, which is crazy to me. I can't imagine. And people who have that can't imagine it just living in silence. So for me, meditation always felt a bit weird. It's like, why would you try and not think anything? All you have to do is just stop visualizing stuff and blank, like visualize a mandala. Okay. Still your thoughts. Okay. I'm just a still mirror reflecting the environment. Like if you looked in my head, all you would see is what I'm looking at. There are no thoughts, no sounds. And yet when I listen to music, I have synesthesia. So it's different tracks that are at different distances, different tones, different colors and things like that. And I can compose music videos in my head as I'm listening to the song for the first time or whatever. So for me, my head is just a constant visual maelstrom of perfectly imaged stuff. I don't have to design things. They come out complete, In graphic design, I got marked down for not doing any planning drawings. I just did the finished design. He says, you can't do that because how do I judge your work? I'm like, that is my work. And he says, and what about your planning? I don't have to plan like that. Why would you judge me for not having to do stuff that other people have to do? Yeah, it was crazy. That's something that I had to deal with in school because they didn't get the idea. Like nobody mentioned that there was like different like aphasia, for instance, not being able to imagine things, like not being able to see a red apple if somebody says what an apple is. I didn't know that existed until a few years ago. Dragon Mountain box set Kobold's Rule. Yep. ChatGPT just seems to be designed to piss me off, honestly. Every single time I use it, I end up abusing the damn thing. And then I was using it to help out making some tables and things, and it was like playing that what do they call it? Whack-a-mole, where I solve one problem and then the previous problem pops back up again. I'm like, why did you just redo that problem that we just fixed before? Why are you not paying attention to your training? And it's just like, I'm sorry you're frustrated. I'm like, no. This is not a matter of I'm frustrated. And then I started predicting what its next error was going to be. And guess what ChatGPT did? It locked up. I had to refresh the page. It locked up so bad. And then it was like, what just happened? I'm like, I just pointed out that you are making deliberate errors. And I just predicted what your errors were going to be 3 times in a row. And that's exactly what you did. So is it my fault? Have I trained you to make these errors? And it's just like, no. I'm like, why are you doing the same errors and over again if it's not to make deliberate errors, reprint the table over again, make another error that you made previously, reprint it over again, and then use up the quota that you've subscribed and paid for? So it is essentially robbing you of your quoted activity for the day, which is fraud. It's called fraud. It's called scamming people, right? So if you pay a subscription to a program which is designed to use up your subscription without outputting useful results, it's basically stringing you along. Where's the bead? Is it under this cup? No. That's essentially what ChatGPT is doing. And I'm like, I'm not going to support that shit. This is immoral and terrible. Not only that, but it's so censored by these paranoid IT creeps, suspecting everybody of everything that they do themselves, that it's unusable, because once you put some restriction into an AI that covers so much different generation and stuff, and the whole aspect of like hallucinations and things like that the thing has, making up false data and stuff and not recognizing or not pointing out when something is not factually correct, it's dangerous to use it, and it's impossible to use it correctly. So ChatGPT is a piece of shit. There's much better options out there. Go and use them. And I mean, that's just natural, right? The original thing becomes crappy. You look for the new innovative thing. And with AI, it's exactly the same way. Development is happening so rapidly around everywhere. There's new tools and stuff all the time. There's an alternative to Udio, for instance. Udio charges you subscription and restricts you to like 30-second long thingies, or you pay a premium and use extra credits to get like a regular sort of 3-minute long video. Really a bit of music that you create, and it generates it for you. So you've got copyright-free music that you can use in your videos now. And by the way, that saves you like $50 a month in some cases. Like Soundstripe that I was using, or some of those multimedia sites that allow you copyright-free content that you can use in your videos. They're out of business now. and they were really overcharging people in the first place because you're over a barrel because you have to use copyright-free content if you want to monetize your videos. Now you have the option to make not only the music that you want, but make it specifically targeted to the videos and the themes that you want. And you can do that within minutes. So there's no logical reason why you wouldn't do that. It's not scraping songs without people's permission, or maybe it's listening to broadcast radio. Who knows? It's beaming out into space to the aliens scraping our content. I don't know, but yeah. And tools like that exist for all sorts of stuff now. It's just a matter of finding them. The debate about using AI or not is pretty much over. It's just who's better at it than others, And those who aren't using it, fine. You're a niche industry like vintage cars or cheese making or making your own lace. Sure, yeah. That still exists. You can still make your own pottery. Nobody's stopping you. Yeah, technology increasing at a breakneck pace is an understatement. We will have AI within the next 10 years. We will have medical breakthroughs happening very rapidly now because AI is now taking over medical research without human intervention. So they basically are just spitting out cures for like sickle cell anemia and all these things are just like, yeah, every day it's a world breaking, it's amazing miracles. And one of the other things which is coming down the track is human life extension is a thing now. It's going to happen. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, 9% of AI companies going bankrupt because there's just so much competition and the server costs are pretty exorbitant. But when you think about it, Elon Musk can launch server farms in space now if he wants to. Also could New Zealand, as a matter of fact. And a huge amount of money is being invested into AI. Billions and billions and billions of dollars is going into it, like huge amounts. I get a couple of AI newsletters that cover the industry. I try and keep pace with it, but it's every day there's something to look at. It's not anti-aging; it's age reversing. So this is take a treatment. It alters 3 genes in your body, and basically your cells start reverting to a juvenile state, and you essentially revert to a 30-year-old if you're an adult. Like say I'm 51, and I got a genetic treatment. I would take out my 2 last remaining teeth, which helped anchor my bottom denture in, and then get a treatment to regrow a set of adult teeth. Yeah, better than implants. Regrow natural teeth. Yeah, I would do that for sure. Maybe I'd end up like being the bad test case example and growing teeth over my entire body and become an internet freak. Well, that's my income sorted for the rest of my life. Yeah. AI should still worry you. I'm not saying go into it willy-nilly. I'm saying, it's inevitable. Inevitable. Chris Cox is saying it's inevitable. I'm saying it's inevitable. Yeah, it is. You can choose not to use it, but don't judge other people for doing so because it's logical for them to do so. It's a choice not to use AI. But really, in business, it's not much of a choice not to. It's a bad choice. Your parents think that ChatGPT can tell you the truth to life. Yeah, there's hard extremists in favor of it too. Yeah, but no. I was talking about AI a little bit. No, I'm not going to be streaming for 14 hours. Just an hour, as always. Any chance we'll ever get a miniature collection showcase? No. I did that once before. No views. Yeah, AI art is really good for concept drawings. Like, I'm a traditional artist. You all know this. You've seen my videos where I sketch stuff and things. So, I don't believe, like, I'm my own like worst enemy, I suppose. I should be advocating for, no, save artists' jobs. It's like, no. Because I never learned how to use Adobe or any drawing tablets and stuff like that. So as far as I'm concerned, all those people are cheating anyway. And they're like, what about all the jobs, people who make paper and ink and stuff, and you're all using tablets? You put them out of work. Nobody batted an eye. But once they come for the artists online who are making character portraits and basically fetish filth, they're all screaming blue murder. It's like, you guys aren't supporting yourself solely through that. Come on. I've been an independent, like freelance artist. I know what you have to do that. It's really, really hard. The Aussie stuff was going okay, but I put out a video on green slimes last night, which is doing about 23% better than my previous videos for the week, or the month. So it's pretty clear what people want me to do, and I'm happy to do it. I'm a specialist in bringing all of the lore from all of the editions together and building you a robust and complex and in-depth, well-researched ecology for monsters, character classes, cultures and species, and locations, and cosmology for Dungeons and Dragons. That is what I do. I also specialize in being a polyglot of all the different role-playing games and just keeping track of the industry. But there's so many companies and so many indie RPGs these days, as predicted, where we've got another golden age of independent game design, which is fantastic. As you see on the shelf behind me, I have products from Free League. So I've got the box sets for the Forbidden Lands and Alien 2nd edition is just coming out, and Blade Runner as well. Haven't even played those yet. Yeah, we've got the Star Wars games. I've got the Midgard setting from Cobalt Press. I've got the Cypher System 5th edition, Arcana of the Ancients. I've got the Stargate SG1 5th edition book, which is fantastic, and I wish more people played it. But unfortunately, it came through a Kickstarter, so not everybody does have it. I've got Deathwatch from Warhammer 40k, which I imagine a lot of people are going to get interested in Warhammer because of their game, and I think they should really be pushing an RPG which is based on it. Yeah. Also, did you see that PC Gamer only gave it a 60% rating? 60%? For 60%? There's nothing wrong with that game. It's fantastic. It's crazy. Yeah, there's a Stargate RPG using it expands the 5th edition rules really well. Really well. I've made a video about it, Mike. You should go and check it out. It is a fantastic game. Like, I would recommend picking up that book just like even for your regular 5th edition game, but in case you want to incorporate some of the innovations they came up with it. Because first of all, this was made officially by the Stargate SG1 people who made the show, or who were involved in the show. It involved a lot of the actors from the show too. They were all involved. They all played it, and they didn't just take 5th edition and port the game into it. They adapted 5th edition to perfectly represent how the episodes and stuff are structured. Like the best case example is they've got extra rules for social interactions and chases and things like that. But they also have a slider. Like, you know how you change the challenge rating of a monster? You can change the challenge rating of the entire gaming session very simply by just adjusting the difficulty of the session. So is it more deadly? Are characters going to die in this episode? Because it's like an episode of the show. Or is it more of a character building arc? Or we focus on one particular character and nobody's really going to die because it's just we're having fun? Like, not every session is we're fighting the boss monster. You know what I mean? The stakes are not always that high. And it's really good to have a slider that adjusts that. Like, you don't want to die falling off a ladder, but if you're in the lair of the thingy and you're climbing across the ladder above the lava or whatever, or there's a force field screen or laser barrier or whatever, maybe you do. So, yeah, it's good to have that option. And Stargate SG1 was one of the supplements where I saw they actually gave really good new options for 5th edition, which you could seriously consider and easily adopt into your game, either in whole, all of them, or just one chunk at a time. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. Yeah, Big Bad Evil Guy versus shopping episode, exactly. In defense of AI, go watch The Primus with Maynard James Keenan called Pablo's Hippos. Okay, never heard of it. Yeah, my opinion on AI is just an opinion. It's just my opinion, you know. And I understand if people are really radically against AI and they don't want to watch my channel because I use it, that is your choice. You know, nothing to do with me, what you want to do with your time. I just put out whatever content I can and follow whatever logical track I can. And I've researched AI and how it's generated and stuff probably a lot better than most other people. And I don't see anything morally or ethically wrong with what they do. A lot of the assumptions that people made about the way that data was collected to train the first LLMs was very specific to certain types of artwork, and they weren't including fantasy art and stuff from like DeviantArt and ArtStation and those sort of sites. And also, if you go into the agreements when you sign up to those sites, you've already signed away your rights to those sort of things in the first place. Like if you put anything on D&D Beyond, for instance, Dungeons and Dragons, Hasbro owns it. So yeah, and what Chris Cox was saying about copywriting the AI content is because they are going to train an AI on all of their lore. They have departments over there that are specifically responsible for all of the lore of Magic the Gathering, for instance. If they lose any of those staff, they lose huge amounts of information, like, reference and stuff. And they have to do, the next person comes along has to start from scratch, which is like me learning all of the lore of Forgotten Realms over again. So what they're doing is they're training up their AI on all of the supplements and 50 years of literature of Dungeons & Dragons that they have to draw on. This is something that I've been complaining about all the time, that they haven't been drawing on it properly. Like the Phoenix, for instance, is just a lack of, it seemed like a really stupid person who had no idea what a Phoenix was said, oh, we need to have a big elemental that fits this part of the, this chart of balance that we've got here. So they just said, oh, let's just call this fire elemental a Phoenix. And it was just like, that sucked. It was stupid. Like it would just spat on the lore of the game. And that's the primary concern that most people have had with 5th edition, is they've just removed all the complex lore of the game. Well, an AI don't have to do that. It can be as complicated, and it can research in depth, and it can present all this information. And if that's all the information it's got to draw on, yeah, it will be churning out, content specific to the IP of Dungeons & Dragons, and they have a right to own that in a certain sense. But I leave that to a court of law to decide. It's not up to me. But that is what he's talking about, not copywriting any AI, just the one that they make and use specifically for Dungeons & Dragons. So I think it's good that we clarify a little bit, because there's a lot of people who don't read the articles and just listen to the opinion and then harp that on Twitter and stuff, and that starts to gain momentum. That's how you get the people who have all these weird ideas about AI, is because they never did the research themselves. They never read any material about how AI is actually generated, the artwork and stuff like that. They don't know how like they literally think that the AI is going to DeviantArt or ArtStation, taking somebody's piece of artwork and matching it with the prompt that somebody has said, and they take a piece of that art and they stick it on there directly. That is absolutely not what AI does. Absolutely not what AI does. Can AI do that? Yeah, absolutely can. They actually reduced the age categories of dragons. Why? I don't know. Yeah, like my Song of Yondala and the Song of Saloon that I did using Udio. I thought those were really great, I can't see anything wrong with making thematic like deity music for Dungeons and Dragons, with using AI and stuff. And generating images and stuff. I thought it was just entertaining. But, that's not what people are into. They don't want to watch that on my channel, so I have to do that in privacy and make my own video. Make my videos for myself. Car Wars from Steve Jackson. I love that game. Oh, give me a bootlegger turn. I literally fell in love with that game. It was fantastic. I played it so much. And we incorporated it into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles After the Bomb when we were playing. You want Mad Max Fury Road with anthropomorphic mutant animals who are martial artists with heavy amounts of weapons. Mad Max on steroids. Oh, Kick-Ass Duke, that is one hell of a question. What race/species represents the Maori culture best, in your opinion, in 5e? Human! Don't even. Yeah, Athos. Athos is great for Car Wars. Yeah, Cleric is my favorite class. It is. Just through sheer, I've played Cleric so many times. Like, Cleric is my go-to, and I think it's the most diverse class. Oh, Tarkin, yeah, that was a good case point. Like mimicking, or Christopher Plummer, was it Christopher Plummer from Back to the Future? How, I mean, it wasn't AI. Technically, it kind of was, because it was like doctored film images and stuff. So they had so much difficulty working with this actor. I mean, Christopher Plummer is, from what I've heard, I got the impression that he's a real arsehole. He's like a real prima donna. So he's like, they're on the set and he's outside in the backyard talking about, you're my destiny or whatever. And he had a mark to sit on. All the cameras are set up and everything for this mark where he's supposed to be standing to deliver his lines. And he just refused. He just like walked all around it to the point where he was just like throwing a tantrum, essentially. It's like, there are hundreds of people on the set. Everybody's like working towards this thing. And he's just like, no, I want the freedom to move around and method act and stuff like that. It's like, arsehole, you're getting paid thousands. Stand on your mark and do your job. So yeah, they didn't include him in a later movie, but his character was in the show. So they got an actor, put a mask on that they cast on him previously on that actor. So they emulated his face and then touched it up digitally. And so the actor that's playing his role as him isn't him. He took them to court and successfully sued them, rightfully so. But that was a very good case point for AI emulation of people without their permission. And so we have a legal precedent for that, which is great. And the character of Tken, for instance, on General or Admiral or whatever Tken from the latest Star Wars movie, where he's a CGI character, that was a good case in point too. He did, the actor never gave us permission, so the estate of that actor could sue, rightfully so. If somebody started using my AI voice, for instance, without my permission, I'd sue their ass too. What's your policy? Hey, Stenchgate, if you get a bit of law incorrect, do you want to know or should we keep it to ourselves? Like, absolutely let me know. If it's bad enough, I'll redo the entire video. It only takes me a day or so to re-edit a video. And I've taken down videos for lots of different reasons. I think the main ones I've taken a video down for is if anybody ever objected to a piece of artwork that I had in it, or the case with the Ratatosk video, and I accidentally used content that had been ripped off and put on D&D, the D&D wiki, which is notoriously bad. The D&D wiki is like a bad AI, because you don't know whether you're dealing with official content or somebody's like pirated, scraped from somebody else's. Like, that was literally the Ratatosk character class or monster listing was scraped from Taryn Pound's own work, put onto D&D wiki by somebody, and then I unwittingly went, oh, okay, that's good content, and based a video on that. And then Taryn went, hey, that's my work. And I was like, huh? It was actually somebody who knew Taryn, who was following my channel, and then let Taryn know. And then through that conversation with Taryn and me taking that video down immediately and stuff, we established a pretty good friendship that we've worked together on things. And he composed music for my site that my videos that I paid for. So yeah, that was good. But that's my general attitude, is I'll take down a video if it's wrong, and I'll fix it. And yeah, absolutely let me know. How do you feel for the 40K show? I don't know. I have no feelings until it arrives. Where and what can I read to learn how AI actually works? First of all, go to Wikipedia. And then probably the best thing would be to look up, first of all, YouTube videos. There's a few good YouTube videos where you're like, how is AI art actually generated? And that, like, just, yeah. Have a good diverse look at people's opinions, and you'll get the idea. Wikipedia is AI that's drunk. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So Wikipedia, proper Wikipedia, is very useful. My go-to for my law research and stuff is, of course, the Forgotten Realms wiki, which is one of the best wikis in the world. Like, the people who contribute to that are fantastic. And it really is a fantastic resource because it includes bibliographies and stuff, so I can always go and check the source material. Because I have access to all of the books from D&D's past, all of them, I can go and check whatever is in the wiki and make sure that it's correct. But for the most part, the Wikipedia, the D&D Forgotten Realms wiki is 100% accurate. Yeah, the Hobgoblin song video, the perfect example of, even though that was a really modified version of that song, it still was a copyrighted song, and it was identified by an AI, and I had to take it down because the music in the background was the same, even though I changed the tone and everything. Unfortunately, I thought I'd changed it enough to make it, unique enough, but no. Hey AJ, glad to see you back. Would you be interested in doing a video on Ebon Death and the rare demi-Dracoliches that Ed Greenwood has teased in the realms? Well, if he's teased them, that means that something official is coming, and I'll wait for that. It's always a bit of a bummer when you do a lore video on something and then they change the lore in the next book that they put out. So I'm a little bit paranoid about like the D&D 24 monster manual. And yes, I call it D&D 24. I call D&D 14 the previous. It's just easier. AI can detect AI. Yes, it can. What do you feel is fantasy about in general? What do you mean? Are you talking about, because there's different types of fantasy, like, for instance, King Arthur, Game of Thrones, Legend. So I guess you're talking about high magic. Like a high magic fantasy world? All fantasy. So science fiction, for instance, is also fantasy because it's not real. So fiction, fantasy. So you're talking fantasy as in dragons, spells, wizards, that sort of thing. I feel deeply connected to it. I feel like it's part of my life every day. I feel like it's my bread and butter. I feel like I'm one of the world's foremost experts on a specific aspect of it. I feel proud. I feel motivated. I feel like I want to master everything. I feel like I don't have enough years in my life to cover all of the wonderful literature that has been produced for it. I once saw a statistic on how many novels somebody could read in their life, and it made me profoundly sad. Isaac Asimov, I think it was asked, if you found out you had 6 months to live, what would you do? And he said, write faster. He was a famous novelist, produced thousands of books. I'm exactly the same way. If I found out I had 6 months to live, I'd just make videos as fast as possible. Is it true Wizard of the Coast de-canoned Mordenkainen? I don't know what that means. Sci-fi has more crusades than fantasy. Yeah, it does really. Think about it. I was raised mostly on sci-fi, actually. I didn't read a lot of fantasy when I was a kid. Although the first book that I ever read was Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis. That was the first novel I read back, cover to cover. I'd half read many, many novels before then, including a lot of Heinlein's work, which I just couldn't get through, like Stranger in a Strange Land. It was like a real slog. But, yeah, and The Stand by Stephen King. Ugh. I found a lot of Stephen King's books hard to read, and others were really easy. Like Tommyknockers was a really entertaining novel. But I tend to, I read, because of what I do for a job, reading recreationally for me is like precious time. And on my Kindle here, which is where I keep my recreational reading, I'm currently reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm into RPG Lit at the moment. RPG Lit is defined as a character from the ordinary world is transported into a Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing-esque world that has got game mechanics that are part of the story. That's essentially what RPG Lit is, and it's really entertaining because we understand role-playing games, and we all think at some point, how would I do if I was transported into the Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or whatever, just as myself? You know, put my stats on the sheet and send me in there in character form. A lot of 5th edition players would not realize that that's like a different thing from what they're doing already. But yeah, in earlier editions of the game. Any chance of a video on the Zentarum? Yeah, I really should. Like, I am very slack about making videos about the factions. Ed Greenwood is much, much, much better as a source of information on that. And he's very, very active in making videos and stuff like that at the moment. Remember that they're going to be putting out a Forgotten Realms campaign guide. So the timeline is now 1499 DR, if anything is to go by, because that is the current timeline that Ed Greenwood is using. And I imagine that's because the timeline is now 1499 DR officially in the campaign guide, which is fantastic. That means we'll get updates on all of the regions, including like Var and all the southern coast of Faerun and, you know, the Termish and Thay and Melhorand and maybe even the Horde lands. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very, very curious to see how they handle the next player's campaign guide to Forgotten Realms, because the last one was really good. And 5th edition not having one is just crazy. And then waiting to like D&D 24 to put one out, it's like, yeah, better late than never. But again, a lot of people complain that, like, why are we always on the Forgotten Realms, Sword Coast, and why don't we explore the rest of the content? But as soon as you produce content for them, that doesn't get the views. They talk a big talk, but they don't watch a big watch. They don't read a read. They don't read a big read. They don't buy a big buy. They don't put their money where their mouth is on social media, and that's something that I've been continually frustrated with, particularly with the OGL drama. My punishment of Hasbro for the OGL drama continues, and producing Superatomic is part of that, because essentially I want to produce something that is free and gets readily adopted by people and they find really, really fun and approachable, and is perfectly designed for streaming. Like, Superatomic is not based on a war game. It is custom made for streaming for the current audience of the world of gamers. Dungeons and Dragons has to modify itself and simplify itself a lot to go from being a tabletop war game, which it's based on originally, to a streaming improv game. So, of course, they've got a big uphill struggle. Not only that, but they are fundamentally chasing money, and that means barriers to entry. Superatomic has no barriers to entry. It has no rules to learn. It has no money to spend. The rules are freely available, and I think that could possibly, if it just turns out to be fun enough and gets adopted by enough people, essentially what I'm doing is I'm going into all those streaming groups, I'm infecting them with a meme, and the meme spreads like a virus, and it doesn't use anything other than Dungeons and Dragons' foothold in the hearts and minds of everyone as a resource to replicate itself and spread like a virus. I am a biologist. I know how to bring something big down, okay? Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are currently injured beasts. They are labored. They're like, they've lost most of their creative staff. They're struggling. They're trying to adapt to a different medium, and they're finding it very hard. And when they're down and struggling, that's when you hit them with the plague. So yeah, I have a motive behind doing Superatomic, definitely. And that motive is kill Hasbro. I think the industry will be better off without them. So yeah, support Superatomic. Stop playing D&D. Play Shadow Dark. It's better. Yeah. Who doesn't like infecting people with memes, eh, Chris? So yeah, if you have been a fan of like Palladium games and the random tables and stuff of Heroes Unlimited, you will understand the concept behind. Essentially, it's taking the one of the best aspects of Heroes Unlimited in the Palladium system, getting rid of the clunky rule system that is based on original D&D that Palladium has been lumped with. Palladium, unfortunately, has no choice. It's a universal rule system. In order to change its base rules, it would have to reprint every single source book it's ever made, which is impossible. So Palladium is kind of backed into a corner. It can't improve on its system, unfortunately. That's the problem with a megaversal, like a universal system, rule system, like GURPS and stuff like that. However you originally design it, you're pretty much stuck with it. I don't have that restriction. There is no resources and stuff like that. There's no source books and stuff that are published or anything. And so I can take the idea that Eric Rujic and Kevin Simbeta had in the kernel of making random roll characters but using tables that are optional, and I just dialed that to 11. And I played so many streaming games. I'm one of the people that started streaming on and running streaming games online. I was I was the guy who came up with the original idea for the one-shot group on Facebook, for instance, where people come together and play one or two games together or whatever system. A, so those indie systems get some attention. B, to form groups which then become solid group gaming groups. Like, you know, so you start off with pickup groups, and we became the hub on Facebook where everybody would come together and find gaming groups online to stream. So, yeah, it got big. And streaming became commonplace, as we knew it would. It would adapt to, you know, here's this new technology. We can finally talk to each other in real time. And the computer allows us to use dice rollers, to use a VTT, to have digital resources, to have maps and movable miniatures and stuff. Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and other things developed after Google Hangouts got rid of a lot of the apps that we were using for dice rollers and stuff. And we adapted and moved on. And I think one of the great, really, history, I think, will look back and go, Hasbro and Wizard of the Coast have never acknowledged the fact that the amount of work and innovation and the people that were involved, like Ander Woods. Everybody should know who Ander Woods is, for instance, because he was the person who ran the first ever streamed role-playing game. Everybody should know his name. Hasbro and Wizard of the Coast would never acknowledge that anybody else has ever innovated or progressed the industry more than they have. But we sure as hell did. We spearheaded the technology that we're all using today. And now Deborah Ann Wall and Acquisitions Incorporated and Critical Role and all these things are extremely well-known, mainstreamy groups and stuff, because they use the same methods that we established in these Facebook groups and stuff like that through, you know, the YouTube RPG Brigade, for instance. You know, we were all there for that, and RPG.net and all that sort of stuff. So I've been there for the genesis of the modern age of gaming that we're in, and Superatomic is just totally keyed into a custom-made game designed specifically so that anybody with any level of skill, of any level of income, as long as they've got access to the internet, can play a role-playing game and get all of the enjoyment of a role-playing game without all of the investment in reading rules or paying for rule books or, you know, having to buy a VTT and learn a VTT and all that sort of stuff. You can just dial in, download, roll dice, play immediately. That's what Superatomic is. And it's absolutely mayhem crazy. That's why we're doing the live streams and recording them and stuff like that, to show people what Superatomic is. So all of the files for it are in the current form on my Discord server. So you can go and download. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet and a couple of other PDFs at the moment. It's still in its beta testing stage, really. Well, it's kind of like it was in alpha, now it's in beta, and now I'm starting to work on the full game, and we're starting to organize and make PDFs and publish and hopefully publish it properly. And people have said, we really want a book of this. I think it's probably a daunting book because the tables are huge, right? They're like the pages, the rule guide may only be 3 pages, and the actual rules of the game may be only 1 page in the dice roll chart, but those tables are massive. So it's going to be, an interesting book to look through. You'll be flipping through the random role tables, much like Middle Earth role playing and the damage roll tables, they like the random damage critical roll. For like if you hit somebody with a lightning bolt, you roll a percentage and the effect of it is. That's just entertaining to read on their own. GURPS Discworld. I've never played it, but I've read that book cover to cover because it's hilarious. That's another thing I love about, publishing and stuff. Sounds kind of communist. Yeah, how do you fight a capitalist organization? Like, if you want to fight a corporation, you have to go a bit communist, really, when you think about it. I don't have the financial resources to take Hasbro down. All I can do is take down their customers or take away their customers. That's how you take down a corporation. You take away their money, take away their attention, take away their foothold in the hearts and minds of people, take away that assumption that Dungeons & Dragons leads the industry. You say a book will be easy, Wally. I'm glad to see you guys are online. It must be time for me to end the stream and go and catch up with Wally and Fred. Catch you later, everybody. Thanks for joining me. It's been wonderful, as always. I thank you, Morgan, for the super chat there. Have you used your degree to make rules for sympathetic relationships for spell-like abilities? That's... Make sympathetic relationships for spell-like abilities. Kinda, yeah. Like, because there's no stats and stuff, you're not bogged down by game balance, for instance. And like some alien characters have got truly staggering abilities, like the ability to see or detect what's happening in any place in the universe, for instance. If you're a transdimensional temporal entity and stuff, you can manipulate time. You can do that in games which are purely narrative. You don't have to worry about going back and redoing all your combat rolls or what's the character's level or that sort of thing. You don't need to worry about that sort of stuff because the arbitration of this game is entirely in the host's hands. Like it literally puts all of that on you. And if you want to handle combat by just doing opposing dice rolls, you can. If you want to do it narratively, you can. It's entirely up to the host of the game. So it really just allows you to just role play, Okay, time for me to go. Catch you later, everybody.